Hi everyone. In this video, we'll be replicating this React um, in-browser Markdown editor, which I found on frontendmentor.io. It's a wonderful place to check out a few front-end challenges if you want to go and check this out. Has a few challenges which you can run through. Anyways, I found this in-browser Markdown editor here, and over here it has a few complicated things like document names, save changes, etc. We're going to be building a much easier version of this, which is going to build a basic split view of the Markdown and the preview. Okay, we'll be building this using React. So I think let's start off. Before we start off, I'd like to just talk about my blog here. I keep posting regular articles on various dev related stuff on here, so you can go and check it out later on live4247.com. Anyways, so let's start off. I'll be using Vite to start off the boilerplate over here. So I'll just do pnpm. You can use npm if you want. I think it's npx Vite at latest. Anyways, Vite, I forgot how this works. Yeah, npm create Vite at latest. Just click enter, and I'm gonna say Markdown editor. Alright, I'm gonna use React, and I'll use we'll go with TypeScript plus SWC. Okay, so I'm gonna open this with Visual Studio Code over here. Alright, so if I just go over here and look at this boilerplate, it has this app.tsx over here, and this hasn't really installed anything yet, so we can just open the terminal and run. I think this would be better visible for everyone over here. Right, so I'm just gonna run pnpm install. So that will install everything which is in the package.json. It's a basic boilerplate with Vite, React and TypeScript, and it uses SWC. We don't need to go into that, but basically it's just a boilerplate, which even the React.dev is recommending over CRA nowadays. Okay, so anyways, after installing, it says pnpm run dev. If you're using npm, it will be npm run dev. But if I run npm run dev over here, this will start off as a server at 5173. So I can just command click this, and it will start off a brand new React application for me. I'm gonna quit all this over here. Mostly I can yeah, we can this. So I'm just going to clear everything which is over here out. If you look at the main.tsx, this is rendering the app component. So all we need to do is take this, and we don't need this. I'm going to move that part, remove everything inside return. We don't need all this. We can just remove all this. We don't need this SVG. We can remove that. We don't need these assets, and we don't need this app.css for now as well. I'll probably do something that later, but we don't need that now. I can delete that as well. Index.css, I'm gonna be setting Tailwind over here, so that's not really needed for now, but that gets imported over here. So I just return a div here which says hello world start off with, and that will return this. Good start. Okay, so first of all, I'll be setting up Tailwind CSS over here. So I'll go to the documentation, framework guides, and click on Vite here. We've already done this part of it. All we need to do is install these. So I'm just gonna add a terminal here, and I'm gonna say pnpm add -d um, Tailwind CSS, post CSS, and auto prefixer, and we need to init Tailwind CSS. So we can do Tailwind CSS init -p. So if I just look at my newly created tailwind.config here, it will have a brand new Tailwind. So if you're not really familiar with Tailwind, I have a blog post on it. Somewhere here about getting started with Tailwind, if I'm not wrong. 1 second. Yeah, start with your first Tailwind CSS project. A lot has changed since I wrote this article. Tailwind 3.0 had a lot of changes to it, but anyways, it should help you get started with it. Now this will get you started with the Tailwind project, and I'll just copy paste this. All it says is it tells Tailwind what all files to watch for the changes. So it will watch for this index.html over here and the src, everything inside the src directory, which ends with js, ts, jsx, and tsx. So after I'm done with that, I go to the index.css and paste this. If you've used Tailwind before, all this is very boilerplate-ish. So you wouldn't feel much of a difference using it for the first time. I'll just quit this server. I'll just add a class name here to test this out, textlg, textred 500, just to see if this works. PMP and run dev again, and that works. Just to see if it works. Font bold, and we should get this as bold. Okay, so right, so what I'm going to do is I'm gonna just work on this here itself. So we will have a grid system with one side as the Markdown editor and one side as the preview, as shown in the frontendmentor website before. So I'm just gonna split this into two. So I will have this div over here as the main div, or you can just call it main if we are to go with semantic HTML. I'm gonna have let's go with the grid system over here and say grid calls 1 to start off with, and if it is not mobile, then I'll go for grid calls 2. Let's go bg gray 800. So not much to start off with. We need to set a width of full and x of screen, and that would start you off. If I just go get in my inspect here, so this will have a grid system. Now if I have two divs over here, so yeah, if I look at this and this collide over here, and if I go to a mobile view, it's top to bottom because of grid calls 1 here. So starting off well, I'll be creating a new component here. I think let's call it add a components directory and say editor.tsx, and let's have another one called preview.tsx. In the editor.tsx, I'm just going to export default a new function called editor, and I'm going to return a div which says editor. Just to see if it works, I'm going to replace this with editor, and it should import it on the top for you if you're using VS Code. So yeah, that works over there, and if I say preview over here, wouldn't work right now. But something very similar. Just return a div which says preview, and that should show up there if we save this. Yep, that is showing up here, and this is showing up here. So the way I would definitely want this to work is when if the moment the editor content changes, it should re-render the contents inside preview. So we will have to have a state in the state of the, well, the text and the markdown inside the app, and use well, pass it down to editor and then change it back. So yeah, we'll be doing that. So I'll just have this over here. I'm gonna set cons. Well, Copilot's coming in. Well, something very similar to this, yeah. OX only. Yes, disable Copilot. No, never mind. Anyways, start off with that. This is the same markdown editor here as the default state. So this will be passed down to this over here. So we can say markdown equal to markdown. Because we're using typescript, we can now say that this actually uses that. You can use interfaces, you can use types, doesn't really matter. Editor props, yep, I just go markdown, which will be a string, which is going to be passed in from the app. Over here, I'm just going to say that, and this is editor props, and call markdown over here, because that. Another way to do this, which is very commonly used by people, is just say const editor is a React or functional component, something like that, and pass editor props as generic, and that will help you autocomplete. Use either, doesn't really matter. I'm just more comfortable with using this. So now this so the good thing about that is this will shout at you if you're not using markdown. So I can just say markdown and pass in markdown over here, right? So I can do that over here, and that should be passing down over here well and good. So first of all, over here, what I would want to do is you open that frontendmentor in browser markdown editor. I want this heading kind of thing over here. So because we're using, I think we're using gray, aren't we? Yep. So I'll just go use fragments here. I'm just gonna go have this navbar type thing on top over here, and say div within div class name. I'm gonna give it a full width. I'm gonna give it a PG gray of 900, and it's taking the whole screen. Let's just look at that in a second. Let's call this markdown over here. Yeah, okay. So the reason why that was happening was because fragments is not considered as an element directly. It was taking this as the direct the direct editor component. So it was taking the whole screen's height there. Let's just call this a div and a div over here. Let's just give this a padding of 6, I guess. No, padding 3, p3 works here. And in the app.tss, let's just give this a text white to make everything much more visible. I'm gonna give this a text lg. I think let's go with uppercase, and let's give this a I'm gonna give this a light gray and not complete white there. Let's not go with text lg. Looks a little weird. Text md is the base, I think. Yeah, that looks better. I'm gonna go with tracking wider if I'm not wrong. Yeah, tracking wider does give it a letter spacing down there. Can definitely go higher on this. Yeah, that looks better, I guess. Yeah, I can work with that. Yeah. Um, right, so that works. And the next part would be, well, that completes it for me. But you know what? I'm gonna disable Copilot for now. I'm gonna have a text area. We don't need any of this stuff over here. Text area which has the markdown which is being passed in originally, and let's just add a few classes over here. Let's set the width to full. Good enough. Let's give the height full, and I think we can go with this color as the background color for this as well. Well, you can go be transparent, but it's a little weird to be using over here. Well, that seems to be working pretty well. Let's remove that outline over there. So let's go outline none on that. That should work pretty well. And let's go give a padding. I think 6 works. 6 should work. This text white is a little too white for me. I'm gonna go 300. Much better, I guess. Yep. So whenever the markdown inside this text changes, we want to change the markdown inside the state, right? That won't happen directly. We need to call the set markdown function for that. All we need to do for that, I'm gonna pass that function down to the editor component, and that will work for the app component itself. This is a very integral part of passing state down and passing state up back to the parent again. So I just call, let's mark it down over here. First set markdown is a function which takes the markdown as a string and it returns nothing. Well, okay. And so let's just give set markdown over here. We can do this, or yeah, we can do that. That's a good option to do there. Set markdown, just take it down here and say whenever the text area changes, call the set markdown function. That didn't complete for me. Oh my god. Okay. Oh right. Okay. Sorry. My bad. Just take the event which is being passed in from the onChange function and set markdown. Let's call e.target.value. That's all we need to do. Now if I just open my DevTools here and look at the... Oh, I'm on incognito. This doesn't give my React DevTools. Okay, anyways. Okay, let's just... I'll just show how this is working. This is called Markdown here. Not here because that's not inside the parent. It's called Markdown here as well, just to show you that this is working well and good. This is handy. So every time this changes, that is also changing. So you know that the markdown variable, the state of the markdown in the app component is changing with change in the text area inside the editor component. So well, that works pretty well now. Right, so this seems to be working. Let's remove this. Now every time something inside this editor component changes, we need to re-render everything inside the preview. So how do we convert the markdown to its HTML? There's a library for it called markjs. which you can find your mark.js.org as well, and this is the GitHub directory for it. All you need to do is, well, sanitize it for the first, because yeah, anyways, we'll talk about that in a second, but you just need to pass in mark.parse and then pass in your markdown to it, and it will return you the HTML for it. So we can just install that right now. npm add marked, and let's also add well, DOM purify, which is called here. So let's just add DOM purify. I don't think we need JS DOM. Yep. So once that is done, so over here we can pass in the markdown again here, and inside the preview component we can, well, convert it, because I'll talk about why we're doing that in a second. But we can pass in markdown over here, interface preview props, markdown. Let's get that string down here, preview props, and let's just get the markdown down here. Well, a lot of people make this mistake of taking this inside a use effect. People do tend to do this, take the markdown every time this markdown changes, convert this, well, run mark.preview, what was it, mark.parse. But this is kind of an inefficient way to do this, and it's actually mentioned in the new React dev docs as well. You might not need an effect. Yeah. So if you look at this, it tells you how updating state based on props or state, people do this redundant state and unnecessary effect here, and you can just calculate it during rendering. So all you need to do is you can actually remove this whole thing over here and say const past, this is mark.parse, and then, well, use markdown over here. I'll just take the, well, yep, so let's get marked from marked like that, and I think this is a named import. And also if you're using TypeScript, you do need the types for it. So npm add -d add types/marked, and that should get you the types for this. And if I look at mark, this is a function which takes the srcs string. You can pass in options. We'll look into these options in a second. We'll be using that somewhere, and it returns a promise of compile. Okay, so all you need to do is const parse, and if I just take this parse over here, just put it in there just to show you what it shows. See this? That's all we needed to do, and that will take this. The only downside to this is if we pass in something, right? So if I say something like alert hello, but seems to be working. Huh. Well, the documentation says that it doesn't sanitize the output HTML. There might be a particular case where that's not happening, maybe. Yeah, might be a particular case where that's not happening, but we'll still do it because they do tell you to do this as a precautionary measure. So I'm gonna import DOM purify from DOM purify. I think even this needs types. npm add -d add types/DOM purify. Yep, that does need types, and I exited that by mistake. Never mind. All you need to do is DOM purify, take this DOM purify dot sanitize and pass in mark.parse over here, and this should work well and good. Now every time you change anything over here, hello second heading, it gives you the output HTML. It changes the output HTML. So it does re-render. You don't need to add that extra effect over there, user effect over there to make this work. Right. That part is done. Now all we need to do is, let's actually take this again. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna copy paste this. Well, you can actually refactor this even more, because this will be a redundant piece of code, repeated piece of code, but there's not much, it's just one element, so I won't, it's not that big of a deal. We can remove that, so that preview is there again. I think we can do one thing over here, is that I'm gonna add a border R2 border gray 300, something like that. Oh, that's on the top. 1 second. I want it over here. So that will demarcate that part. Border R, border R, and 600. 2. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with that. Okay. Now we need to render that HTML back. Oh, very easy. Let's go div dangerously set inner HTML as an object which has an HTML key. Just say parsed. Something is wrong here. Does not exist on type. It's not assignable to type. Oh, right. That's a autocomplete issue. Anyways, it's a double underscore, not a single underscore. So it does show this. And by the way, the only reason why the style is not coming is because Tailwind removes all the styles which are related to that. Well, it does a complete reset. So the easiest way to get that working is a plugin which Tailwind offers called typography, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. So I can install this Tailwind typography plugin over here. All you need to do is go to your Tailwind config, add this to your plugins, add require, add that, well that. Not sure if you're required to restart, but now all you need to do over here is inside this div, just give this a class name of pros, and voila, that works. And just out of the box, all this is working now. Let's see, hello world. All this styling, everything is working. Well, this is black, and there was something for that over here, adapting to dark mode. Yeah, just go pros invert on this. If you're using a dark mode specific, well, the Tailwind dark mode syntax, well, you can say dark there, but I'm just gonna directly say pros invert over here, and that will directly work out for me. I will also give this whole thing a padding of 6, because that is over there here as well. Seems to be working pretty well right now. Heading 1, heading 2, good start. See list 1, list 2, list 3, seems to be working pretty well. Number list works. This work. Checklist. Yep, that works. and if I do X, well, okay, I am interested to see if this works. Well, that works. Okay, I think well, this does provide an awful lot of things out of the box for you. Typography, it's a very handy plugin when using things like Markdown. I think even they give you an example using Markdown. Yeah, if you look at this, they give you the example using, well, an arbitrary Markdown. Oh, does this work? Well, codes work. Code here. If you want to style this, you can go ahead and style stuff over here. If you go down over here, you can add prose headings, something like say you want to add an underline to this. All you need to do is prose headings underline, and that would be working. So very handy way to get started. Well, links is something website that works pretty well. Yeah, I did a command click on that, so it opened on a new tab. Well, that does need a little bit of prose. A seems to be a thing. Let's just give it a text. Pink 500, so it will look something like that. Well, with a long way there, one thing which I do want to add is syntax highlighting. So if I do console.log here, this works, but it doesn't have any syntax highlighting, and for that we'll be using highlight.js. So if you look at their website, it seems very complicated, but it genuinely isn't. So this is Rust. Okay, yeah, anyways. ppm add highlight.js. If I'm not wrong, highlight.js has types, but I keep closing that tab. So all I need to do is import hljs from highlight.js, and actually I'll tell you where I found this from. Yep, if you go to this issue, it is actually in their advanced usage docs as well. Mark.js has this inside highlighting. This seems very complicated, but I went a little up over here and see this set options. It's very simple. All you need to do is mark.parse. Before this, set. So yeah, before this, let's just set mark.set options. How does this work? Takes an object. Let's just set highlight. Takes in a function. You can say function. Takes in the code and the language. I think I can pretty much copy paste this whole thing over here. What this is doing is taking get language from this lang function which has been passed into it, and it's either setting, if this language exists, then we set it as lang, or we set it as plain text, because highlight.js doesn't support all languages. For all whichever language it does support, it's setting that lang or setting plain text otherwise, and it's returning from the highlight function, it's converting that and then returning it to this. And it does need a language prefix, highlight.js. Tell you what this does. Let's just see if this works. This won't work out of the box. We do need to get in the CSS for it, but if you just take a look at this now. Now without this part, without this, if you refresh this page, well, this is just it still seems to be using HLJS. Let me just refresh this once. I'm gonna have to copy this. Yeah, anyways, if I take a look at this now, it's just a general code inside this, and if I had one more line, say cons name, right, so it is just this for now. Now the moment I add this, it splits it into different parts. It adds language JS. This is what this thing goes for, HLJS language, and then after that it adds that language to the end. It adds keywords, strings, all this. Now this is CSS classes for it. Now it does need the CSS file for it. All you need to do for that, if you look at the node modules, if you look at the highlight.js and styles, you will see all this over here. You can take a look at all these. I think they might be on the documentation. Theme guide. Okay, well, it doesn't. Anyways, I know for a fact that I've used a few of these GitHub Doc. Well, Monokai, I saw Monokai somewhere. Yeah, Monokai, I've used Night all this stuff. Let's just, oh, Tokyo Night Doc is a good theme. So I'll just do import highlight.js / styles / Tokyo Night. It was directly in there, right? Yeah, base 16 is different. So I can just go Tokyo -night-doc.css. If I save this, there we have it. We have highlighting, the syntax highlighting in there. The background color of this and this, when the code and the pre is different. So I'll just go over here and look at this background color, that color, and set the background color for the pre element to be the same. And that should work. That didn't work. Do I need to refresh? Let's just copy, refresh this. Paste that back in. Okay, that seems to be working pretty well. Let's go for some JSX. Let's go for Python. Let's try Python. We already know that broke, so I can just go def hello name print hello name. Seems to work pretty well. So I think we're done with our app here. It seems to work pretty well. There are a lot of stuff which can be added to this. Oh, let's try one last thing. Images. Let me think where I have an image on the web. Yep, let's try this. Well, that works. That seems to be working. And well, we could style that as well. We could, where was it? Preview. Yeah, I could go pros, img, and then set with full, without the space, and that will give it a full width. And that seems to break a few stuff. so I won't do that. Let's go rounded. Maybe add a border to it. You could do all kinds of things with this and keep this working. You could things you could add on to this, right? You could store state in local storage. You could do that because if the person refreshes the page, if they wanted to show, oh, let's actually do that. It's pretty simple actually. Okay, instead of setting markdown over here, I'm gonna add a function here is called callback. It takes in the markdown as a string, and it calls set markdown as a string, as the markdown, sorry, and it says local storage dot set item markdown or something, just anything as the key, and set it to the markdown. What this does is this is actually expensive, so you might want to look into memorization and all that stuff. So if I just refresh here, testing this out. Oh yeah, sorry, we need callback over there now instead of this. So let me just refresh and testing this out. It has this, it has that now. Now all which works now is, now because it has that, whenever this component loads back, all I need to do is if local storage dot get item markdown exists, then set markdown, we can actually refactor this 1 second. We get the stored markdown. If stored markdown exists, then we just say set markdown to stored markdown, as we don't do anything. So refresh, doesn't seem to be working. See the error. See the console, too many re-renders. Yeah, this might how's this causing re-renders? Oh, right. Better way to do this, because we're calling new state here itself. Say if local storage dot, so actually copy and paste this over here. If stored markdown exists, and we say stored markdown, else we call markdown editor. This should be better. This should work. Let me just refresh, that works. Now if I clear my local, that's weird. But why is this working? How is this working? Let me just restart this for a second, because that is weird. I don't have anything in my app. Local storage. That is Should be working because it does say that that exists, but why is this not showing here? That's weird, but yeah, that seems to be working now instead of the previous thing, which is, huh, that is the weirdest thing. Let me just call local storage dot clear once and refresh this, and now remove this, and now that. Maybe because it's an incognito window. Testing this out, refresh. Well, that does work now, but okay. Well, also this, yeah, I forgot to mention this. This does need a value over here. We can move this from here, and we can make this self-closing, and this should work. Yeah, we are genuinely done with everything. So yeah, stuff you can build upon this. You can add file names, multiple files. Uh, let's actually look at this. What all does this have? Multiple files. You can have authentication. Store files. This we need something like, well, either S3 or Firebase. What is that called? Firebase storage, Firestore, or something like that. I don't remember. You can use that. Well, you can add multiple things to this. You can well do a lot of, well, see, add stylings to all this, like it's shown here. Like the block code is a lot different to how the block code here is working, so you can add things to that. Well, you basically created a full-fledged Markdown editor. Yeah, so that will be the end of this video. It was a wonderful around 50 minutes video. Took very it things like this tend to look very complicated, but if you really get into it and read through it and break them down into smaller components, turns out pretty easy. So that will be it for this video. I'll be coming with more React and, well, maybe full stack projects in the coming weeks. So yeah, goodbye.